Hello everyone, in this video I'll be ranking all of the major skills in Oblivion Remastered on a tier list. There's some that have changed quite greatly from the original to the remaster, which I'll be breaking down in this video. There's some skills that are very useful, some of them marginally useful, and I'm going to cover all of that. First off, starting with the Acrobatics skill. So this impacts how high you're able to jump. It's a nice skill to have, but it's one of the ones that's going to level up really quickly on its own. And outside of just using it to cheese some areas like climbing up mountains a little bit easier by just jumping up them, or if you're in Oblivion Gate, it doesn't serve a massive purpose like some of the other ones. And I'm going to be ranking these based on the effectiveness they bring to the game. And while it's a decent skill to have, I wouldn't recommend making it a major skill because you can just go around jumping around all the time, and you'll do it till you run out of fatigue and you'll gain the skill over time. So while it's a nice one to have, it's just not that great in comparison to the rest. So I want to put Acrobatics in the C tier. It's not the worst thing to ever exist, but it's also not going to change your game, much like Conjuration will. Now, Conjuration, what makes it so good is, especially on the higher difficulties, these summons will also be able to deal the normal damage. So when you're on master difficulty, you do 0.167 times the damage. So you do a lot less damage, 1/6 basically. These funky fellas here, they still do their regular damage. So whenever he attacks, he's dealing 100% damage. On master difficulty, they're almost essential to survival. So I definitely recommend using that if you're wanting to play on expert or master, because these will help out a lot. Another thing too is if you wanted to level up your hand-to-hand, you can just go ahead and summon in like a scamp, beat it up, and keep doing that over and over again. So that's a good way to be able to level up your skills. My personal favorites, I like the Atronax, like the flame one. Here is a really good mid-level one. They redid the appearances of them too, so they look really nice too. But the big thing with this is it's got a ranged attack, so it can attack from far away. Another very powerful one is the Daedroth. So this here is a large-bodied fella here, so these are good because they have a range attack and close range attack. They're tanky. They're probably one of the best bang for your bucks in terms of Conjuration. So this is going to be a good one to have at the early mid-game. I guess mid-game really is when you get these. So they're powerful too. Definitely recommend it. And also the Shambling Mounds are good too because they explode when they die. So yeah, Conjuration, the big thing for these is whenever you're playing, they keep you alive because they take aggro from the enemy, but they also deal the max amount of damage, so they're pretty good. I would have to say Conjuration's actually S tier. You also can conjure weapons and armor, and you can actually make them permanent, but that's a whole other story. It's kind of an exploit. I'm not going to count that in consideration, but yeah, they just keep you alive and deal max amounts of damage, so definitely worthwhile. Now, Mercantile. This is a skill it's good. The big thing where it shines is it's a newer change in the Oblivion remake. With Mercantile, you can actually get some higher level gear from merchants before you normally would be able to. So if you level that skill up pretty quickly in the game, and you go down to Imperial City in front of us there, and go to the district where you can buy your armor and gear, you're going to find much better items there and at all the other shops around the world. So that in itself deserves some recognition here because it just makes the game a little bit easier when things are, you're not finding that great of gear. You'll be able to purchase much better gear. Other than that, though, it's not fantastic, so I can't put it too high. It is a nice buff, though, so I'll have to put that into the B tier. And next is Alchemy, and you probably already know Alchemy in Oblivion is very good. So the only gripe that I have with it is trying to find your mortar and pestle is a pain in the butt. So that is one thing that's kind of a pain. I wish they would fix that. The UI did get changed though. So it's nice that they now have the filter here, so you can filter for specific attributes that you want from it. So if you want Fortify Endurance, it'll pull up all of them into one spot here. So this is nice for just making any type of potion that you want. You just go ahead there and you can create it a lot easier. So that's a nice change. As you know, potions are super good in this game, and you can now drink more potions too, so this got even better. Now the big thing with this is making poisons, especially on master difficulty, because poisons don't get affected by the damage scaling that happens to your character, much like Conjuration. So this, I'd say Alchemy is also an S tier just because potions are so good, poisons so good, and it's a good skill to level up just for the benefits that it brings. Now Restoration is also really nice too, but getting this skill up high will mean that you're going to be much more offensive and defensive. So with that, I'd have to say Alchemy is another S tier choice. And next we got Alteration, which gives some nice spells like the Aegis spell there, which you can apply shield to yourself. Alteration's decent, but of all the magic skills, there's some better ones too. This gives you also the option for like a feather spell, even water breathing, which is nice. The only problem is a lot of benefits that you get from Alteration you can actually get on your gear. So if you enchant gear, you can get water breathing gear, you can get amulets that give you that. Pretty much anything you can get from Alteration, you can find elsewhere. So with that, it's an okay skill, probably low B tier to high C tier. I might just put it in C tier there for now. It's not the worst thing in the world, but next we got Armorer. Now where this becomes really good with the Armorer is because you're going to constantly be damaging your gear. You do want to keep it repaired, so that's an important thing. And once you get it up to max level, you can actually repair everything with a single hammer, so that's a nice little benefit there. You just can continually keep repairing your gear. And as you can see, some gear does require a lot to be built back up, so it can be frustrating if you're burning through these. So in that in itself makes Armor a much better skill just because of its necessity to play the game. It's annoying to do it, but it's required basically. If you try to do a game without using Armor, you're going to be in for a bad time. So you can see here we would have burned through many of these repair hammers had we not maxed out our skill. It's also a relatively easy skill to max out too. So, I mean, Armor is kind of an essential one. So with that, I'd have to say it's an A tier pick, just due to it being kind of essential. And next we got ourselves the athletic skill. So what's funny, I love how it looks when you're sprinting with your shield out like this. Like this just looks hilarious. This determines how fast you're going to be moving. So, yeah, this is something you're going to be using decently more than Acrobatics. The reason that you're using this more often is because you need to run around, and this actually allows you to avoid certain attacks too. So that can be nice just for the survival sake. It's still a skill that's going to level up really quickly and easily, but it's a nice one to have. So it's useful, but I wouldn't say that it's one that's like game-breakingly great or anything. So I'd probably say that this is somewhere around, I might put it low B tier to C tier, somewhere around there. It's nothing that's crazy game changing. It just makes you move faster and not get fatigued as quickly. So maybe top of the C tier. Next we got Blade. Now, if you're going to pick weapons in Oblivion, there's a few good ones. Magic obviously being the best thing in this game. Blade has more of the better weapons selection in the game. So Blunt is not as good, I would have to say. As using a bunch of different weapons, the Blade weapons typically run a little bit better. So the reason that we'd be using Blade, they do get special attacks too. Blunt can also knock people over and stuff. So if you're using a Blade, you can actually, once you get to level 75, you can get a ability to actually do bleed damage on targets. And also with your power attacks, you can, whenever you use those, it makes them weak to their damage strike, similar to Blunt. But Blunt will silence targets, whereas with the Blade, we got the option to make them bleed. So that in itself is pretty good. And again, Blade weapons typically run a bit better than Blunt. Not to say Blunt is bad or anything. It's not terrible, but it's not going to be as good as some of the other ones. So even hand-to-hand got a massive buff in Oblivion, which we'll be getting to. So with that, I'd say that Blade is probably, I would say, A tier. I mean, if you want to use weapons, Blades are likely the way to go. And what goes good with Blade, like PB&J, Blunt. So, or Block, I should say. Block is a very powerful skill in Oblivion because, especially on higher difficulties, you pretty much almost need to block. You can also do a little attack there with your block, so you put your shield up and you can hit people with your shield. Another thing about that is it doesn't actually reduce your stamina, so, or it allows you to keep doing it when your stamina is completely out. So you can see here when we got our shield out, you can do this little shield bash attack, and you see our stamina reducing quickly. But the thing is, even if your stamina is out, you can still keep doing this. So it's kind of a little cheese that you can do with this, but block is essential. You pretty much need to have blocking at certain points if you're not going to be running around casting spells quite a bit. So even if you are casting spells, it's nice to have block available. So I have to say that block is another A tier one, just because, I mean, it helps out with your survivability. So that in itself is really good. So kind of similar to armor, you kind of need this skill if you're going to be doing a melee attack. And next we got Blunt. So you can see whenever we're using our shield, we ran out of stamina, but you can continue spamming this. A little bit of a cheese, but it's in the game. So next we got ourselves Blunt. Now the Blunt weapons, as I mentioned, they can silence enemies, which is nice to have. There's some good Blunt weapons, like you can even make your own ones, which they look cool. Like some of these, like I love the look of the glass mace. It's pretty sweet, but overall from quest rewards and different items in the game, Chillren being one of the best weapons in the game, Blunt just kind of falls short, especially compared to some of the other skills. Now, hand-to-hand previously was pretty garbage. I think that hand-to-hand has some actual great usage here and makes it a little bit better than Blunt. So If you love blunt, hey, it's still completely viable, but I think that blunt is actually on the lower end of things here, so I might put it into the B tier. And hand-to-hand maybe a tiny bit better, because hand-to-hand can actually now disarm enemies. But we're on to the best skill in the game, destruction. So yeah, you know Oblivion is popular for its magic, and for good reason. So we got a lot of different spells like frost, lightning, or shock damage, and fire damage. You can make your own ones. Like I made this huge ice blast, which is pretty fun, makes a huge area of effect. There's also a very powerful spell that you can get called the Wizard's Fury, which does 10 points of fire damage over 15 seconds, 30 points of frost damage, and 30 points of shock. So it says all elemental damage types. If someone has weakness in magicka, they're going to get hit hard by that. Now, what makes this so good is it's got a much reduced magicka cost compared to other spells. Now, the thing is that makes magic so good is it hits like a truck. So you can make spells that do 30 points of damage. If you got a bow and arrow, it takes like 2 seconds to fire a shot that won't do as much damage as your destruction spells will. So destruction is easily the best damaging skill in the game compared to blade, blunt, hand-to-hand, and even over conjuration, I would say. But yeah, it's a very powerful skill just because of the amount of sheer damage that you can output with some magic. So yeah, you already knew that this one was going to be put in the S tier. It's seriously that good. I even think conjuration might be a little bit better on higher difficulties too. Next, we got hand-to-hand, and that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. So with your hand-to-hand attacks, you actually have a chance of disarming enemies. So while the attacks aren't as powerful as some others, once you get to Journeyman, you can actually beat up any type of ghost and things like that. And then also your attacks have a chance to disarm targets. Where this becomes good is some fights with, you know, if they have a weapon, you can take their weapon away from them and they may become much weaker afterwards. So hand-to-hand used to be garbage. It used to be literally F tier, but I actually think that hand-to-hand's a little bit more viable in Oblivion Remastered. So I have to say the disarming ability does boost its effectiveness up a bit. Some people might think I'm crazy for saying this, but I'm going to put it in the B tier. Especially people that like the monk style gameplay. This is actually somewhat viable with the disarming ability. So yeah, I'd have to say B tier for that one. And next we got heavy armor. Now there's 2 armor types in the game, heavy and light. You can also wear robes. Now, heavy armor is going to give you better bang for your buck in terms of defensiveness. Like we got the Daedric helmet there, versus any others. It's night and day. The defensiveness that you get from it is just going to be higher. So if we're looking at pure numbers, heavy armor, once you get to max level, is going to be better. The reason that heavy armor is so good is it's got higher defensive values, so your armor rating is higher. But the other thing is, once you get to max level, it doesn't weigh you down. The biggest downside to heavy armor is the fact that it weighs you down. Once that no longer becomes a thing, it's suddenly the best skill in the game. So, or the best armor type in the game. So it's worth the grind. It is a little bit tough early game when you move a little bit slower, but once you get to higher levels, you can sprint around no problem, especially if you got a sword out. It looks hilarious running around in full heavy armor, whipping your shield around like that. So yeah, heavy armor is the best. I would say that it goes in the A tier. It's just good. Now we got ourselves illusion. Now, when it comes to illusion spells, there's a few that stand out quite a bit. So my personal favorite illusion spell is paralyze, because paralyze is just, they can shut down enemies. When they're paralyzed, they can't move. They just lay on the ground. They ragdoll. That in itself is hilarious. But what also makes paralyze so good is you can get a ton of damage in. So it's not extremely expensive for a 5-second paralyze. 71 magicka is really valuable. I mean, this is a custom spell that I made myself. There's some other ones that do a bit of damage as well. That is the best skill that we got here for illusion. You can also rally targets with illusion. Other illusion spells follow like the mute, which can be very good against if you're any spellcaster. Being able to silence a target is really, really nice. I would say illusion is one of the better ones as far as options go. You can demoralize targets. I think the big thing is being able to use any type of illusion spell that paralyzes is really useful. You can also charm targets with it. It really shines with those any type of paralyze. Also, you can make yourself completely invisible. If you got a spell here, so I need to equip certain gear that I have that has Fortify Magicka, but you can make a 1 minute long 100% chameleon spell on yourself. Whenever you cast this, people can't see you. So if I were to equip some of my more powerful gear here to be able to cast that, if we go with a if we turn invisible there, people can't see us. So we go full invisible. You can cheese the game with this. So illusion is really good, actually. People, I think, underrate how good paralyze and invisibility is. If you want to be kind of like a assassin type character or a rogue, using invisibility and also paralyzing the target is a great use for Magicka. So it's good for that kind of build, but it's just, if you turn fully invisible, people have no idea what to do with you. So you can, again, you can also do this with gear. So it's similar to some of the other ones that gear can do it, but the cost of getting all this, the required items to be able to turn yourself fully invisible is way too much. So yeah, I would have to say Illusion is a high B tier for me. It could go A tier. It's really good, especially on specific builds. Very powerful. Plus, Paralyze is hilarious. So yeah. So next we have Light Armor. As I mentioned, it's good, but it's not as good as if we had Heavy Armor. So where Light Armor really shines is early in the game. It's going to be lighter for you. Also, if you had Necromancer robes or things like that, those actually take up more body slots. So if you're going to play a mage, Light Armor is probably the best way to go because you're not going to have high strength to hold more items, and Light Armor just weighs a bit less. Now the thing is, people sometimes use robes. Robes don't let you enchant them with, like, this has fortified magic on all the pieces, so we can get our stamina up really high, or we can get our magic up really high. So for casters, Light Armor might be a little bit better, but it's just not as good as Heavy Armor. So yeah, I could beat the dead horse all day. Heavy Armor is a little better, so I'll put it in the B tier. Next we got ourselves Marksman. Now I love Marksman, and it's great in Skyrim. In Oblivion, it's just a little bit less good. Now, the thing that makes it really fun is whenever you use Marksman attacks, you have a chance to paralyze the target, and it's actually a pretty high chance. Another thing that they changed with Marksman is that it can now headshot. So that's one of the biggest changes, I would say, because being able to headshot a target and deal a little extra damage is nice. This doesn't actually stack up your stealth. However, there's also another way. So if you want to get a stealth attack off that's higher in damage, shoot your arrow, go into your inventory, equip a dagger. It'll give you a ×8 damage multiplier on your weapon. So you can cheese a marksmanship. It's not as good because you can see here, here's how long it takes to knock and shoot an arrow. It's not as quick as being able to just go ahead with one of these attacks that's just going to probably do more damage. So you can spam these. Whereas with this, it does take a bit of time to knock and fire your bow. So the biggest difference is being headshots are now counted, so that's huge. And also being able to paralyze the target is kind of funny. While not being the most powerful thing in the game, I still think it's still worth taking if you really want to use a bow and attack with. So I might put it at the top of the B tier just because it's so fun and headshots are so impactful, and that little cheese where you can swap out and use your dagger to get the ×8 damage. Bows are much better in Skyrim, though. I just want to put that out there. And next we got Mysticism, which unfortunately this is another magic type that is heavily something that you can get from items. So if you want to bind souls and use soul gems, you can get items that do that pretty easily. Umbra Sword, which is one of the most easy weapons to get in the game. So Mysticism, well, it's nice to have. The spells aren't that great, and you can even put a soul trap on your blade for 1 second because all you need is just enough to be able to capture the soul. So it's got also telekinesis, which you can use on yourself. If you're using the Atronach birth sign, you can actually cast telekinesis on yourself, and that'll actually give you your magicka back. So there is some cool things you can do with it, but overall, like the sense life you can get from gear, a lot of the benefits from Mysticism you get from gear. So for that, I'd have to say that it's probably, I would probably put it somewhere into the C to D tier. It's just not as good as some of the other magic schools. So yeah, I'd have to say probably I'll put it in C tier. We do have some D tiers coming up here though, so stay tuned for that. Next we got Restoration, which is one of the best skills in the game because staying alive is what it's all about. So it also includes things like health absorb. So if you got absorb health on touch spells, that's Restoration. The big thing though is anything ones that you cast on yourself, like heal major wounds. You know all the different heals in the game. They're impactful because sometimes you just need to run away and spam your heals. It's got to be one of the best skills in the game just for that alone, keeping you alive. I would say that Restoration, it's hard not to put it up in the S tier or high A tier, so I'm going to put it up in the S tier. It's a good skill to have. And next we got ourselves the security skill. Now, what makes this so bad is that anytime that you find a chest that you can unlock, you can get the skeleton key to unlock it. You can also use spells to unlock it. You can get a greater power that's right outside of Imperial City that gives you the ability to unlock it. So while it's nice, it's just one of those skills that you're going to level up and get the skeleton key and just never really think about it again. So I'd have to say that security is D tier. But next we got ourselves stealth. Now, what's good about sneak? What's good about sneak is sneak's useful in a lot of areas of the game. You can play sneaky in really any type of character. You can also level up your sneak to 100 right at the very start of the game. It's an easy skill to increase, but it's very impactful because sometimes just sneaking past enemies is going to be a good way to get deal with them. And as I mentioned, you can sneak attack with your bow and then swap it to a dagger to get that extra damage off. So if you want to cheese sneak, it can be pretty impactful. I think that sneak is a very useful skill in any type of, whether it be Fallout, Oblivion, Skyrim, any Bethesda game. Sneak's going to be good, but it's not going to be game changing compared to, it's not as good as Skyrim, I'll just put it that way. So I'd have to say that sneak is probably, I'm probably going to put sneak somewhere into the B tier to A tier. I might throw it into the A tier just because sometimes just avoiding fights is going to be a nice way to deal with them. So, and finally we got Speechcraft. So this is a skill you could go the entire game without using because you can always just bribe people. It's kind of a lesser useful stat. Yeah, you can bribe people. There's many other ways to get things done in Oblivion. So yeah, I don't want to spend too much time just saying the same things. It's not that impactful. So D tier. So in total, this is what we got: Destruction, Conjuration, Alchemy, and Restoration, all magic skills, top of the tier. And then we got Blade, Block, Armor, Heavy Armor, Sneak, which could be B tier, somewhere around there. In the B tier, we got Marksmanship, Illusion, Mercantile. The reason that I'm putting that there, again, is just because you can get some easier or better gear early on in the game. Hand to hand, which got massive buffs and being able to disarm people, and just not a bad skill in general. Could be C tier, just depends on how you look at it. Blunt and late armor, and then the athletics, acrobatics, alteration, mysticism, and then security and merchant or speechcraft at the very bottom. So that is my tier list of the major skills in Oblivion Remastered. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next video.